Hello, this is Colin Liddell, the Chief Editor of Affirmative Right, and this is the Shortpod, a brief and succinct podcast commenting on the issues of the day, and the day is the 5th of August 2019. Now, the big news at the moment are the spree shooters. Now, both of these incidents will quickly be forgotten because there's been so many of them. So for people listening to this podcast much later, I just have to recap that there was one shooting in El Paso. A young man by the name of Patrick Crusius went into a Walmart and shot a lot of Hispanic people. And on the same day, another young man called Connor Betts, he went into a bar in Dayton, Ohio, and shot several people of different races, several of them black. Now, this is a case of almost everybody getting hold of the wrong end of the stick. There's been a lot of focus on the so-called political motivations of these two young men. The mainstream media is running with the narrative that both of these incidents have been caused by President Trump's hateful rhetoric and has been trying to cite them as examples of white nationalism, quotation marks. Nice try, mainstream media. But unfortunately for that narrative, it's become pretty clear that the Dayton shooter is pretty much a left-winger. I think VDare have an article on that. Luckily, before his social media accounts could be shut down, they were archived by various people, and this reveals very much a leftist, somebody who supports Elizabeth Warren, somebody who was very upset by President Trump winning the presidential election, somebody who frequently used the term Nazi and fascist as a pejorative, and somebody who clearly identified with the hard left and even Antifa. Of course, parts of the dissident right are very pleased about this, and they are citing it as evidence that leftism breeds violence. The other shooter, the El Paso shooter, he released a manifesto. I went through that. He does, of course, refer to immigration, and that seems to have been a kind of, not so much a motivating, has a legitimizing factor for his violent behavior. He also throws in quite a lot of ideas that really mark him out as a Yang Gang supporter, somebody who supports the policies of the Democratic candidate Andrew Yang. He refers to automation as a social problem, compounded by immigration. He also talks about environmental issues in a kind of typically left-wingish sort of way, a way that is sometimes characterized as eco-fascist, but could just as easily be termed eco-communism. So both of these young men, they have a mixture of ideological and political positions, which, according to the mainstream media or various people in the dissident right, have motivated their bloodthirsty actions. Well, quite simply, I don't buy any of it. I think what we're seeing here is something quite different. And I've come to this conclusion based upon visual evidence. And that visual evidence is quite simply the mugshots of these shooters. Now, I'm not just referring to the El Paso shooter and the Dayton shooter. There was also the recent Garlic Festival shooter, and then going way back to all these other shooters, including people like Dylan Roof and so on. The thing that really stands out about them is not their political opinions, the various causes that they espouse as they go out all guns blazing. The thing that really strikes you is how much of an omega male practically all of them are. They are either short and runty or tall and goofy. They have an aura of being dweeby little soy boys. And I'm trying not to be too insulting here, but I'm trying to describe how they actually look. And so to use perhaps more neutral language, let's just say that they are sexually disenfranchised. They are very, very disfavored in the kind of romantic side of life. Now, a young guy, in his 20s, who has come to the realization that women are not going to look at him, they're probably not even going to notice he's there most of the time. Somebody like that, they have a very, very desperate road ahead of them. Life becomes completely soul-crushing. Now, at Affirmative Right, we have recently published under a pen name, F. Badarmu, a 5-part series entitled Monogamy and the Survival of the West. It's very well written, it's very clear, it's very informative, so I suggest everybody should read that. But the basic thesis put forward there is that the sexual revolution destroyed the system of monogamy in the West. It created a situation of hypergamy. Hypergamy is where women tend to gravitate towards alpha males or substitutes for alpha males like the state, leaving a lot of omega or beta males in the lurch. And this basic situation is actually nothing new. In historical time, or even prehistorical time, in the Neolithic or the Bronze Age, this kind of thing was very, very common. You had hypergamy, you had strong dominant males controlling most of the pussy. You had a lot of less favored males being pushed out. Now, the consequence of this was that it created a lot of violence. And so you went through a period when there was a lot of chaos and warfare in the ancient world. This was finally dealt with by the creation of monogamy, by the imposition of moral systems both before Christianity and during Christianity, where society based itself upon the idea that one man should have one woman. And basically what this did, it distributed the sexual resources more equitably, creating a more stable society in which the majority and even the vast majority of males had a vested interest. Now contrast that with today, where you have these affluent Western societies where women no longer rely upon men, they don't need men. The only man they're going to be interested in is a man who meets their specifications, i.e. a kind of alpha male. They're happy to fuck alpha males. Their dream is to marry an alpha male. They're a lot less likely to look at anybody below that. A hard-working beta can maybe win a girl over, but the power balance is incredibly lopsided now. Below that, you have less successful beta males, you have omega males, you have men who have absolutely no chance of even getting an ugly girlfriend. Into that, you bring a overwhelmingly male immigrant class, which intensifies the competition for sexual resources and creates an even bigger incel class. And so what we're seeing with a lot of these shooters, the ideology is just an excuse. What they're really saying is they have no hope to be a man in the fullest sense of the word, and that instead of that they're resorting to violence as a way of revenging themselves on society, but also staking a final claim to manhood. Now, our present-day society is clearly not ready to deal with this idea or to tackle this phenomenon, so we can confidently predict that these kinds of incidents will continue to occur and to increase. The political response will probably push in the direction of trying to ban guns, so we'll also be subjected to a very, very tedious and boring debate on gun control. Anyway, that's all I want to say for the moment on this fascinating issue. So, over and out.